we got to go long, right?
Have to.
That's I think something that we probably wouldn't argue with anybody about is we have to go long, and I think he tried twice and failed twice so far this year. Good morning, Misfits. You are tuning into another episode of the Misfit Podcast. Full goon squad in the house.
Yo.
What up? Today, you are going to get our reactions to the quarterfinals programming, the experience of it all. But before, we obviously have to do sort of a State of the Union and maybe a little snack chat. We'll see what happens. This podcast is being released on Monday, March 27th, and that is also the exact same day that our new Hatchet off-season program is being released. And hopefully you have already or are into the idea of listening to a 90-minute plus podcast on the whole topic. But the Cliff's Notes are, because we're so far away from the 2024 season, we really need to identify what quote unquote went wrong or what we could be better at in the 2023 season, and then jump right on it and address it, sort of striking while the iron's hot. So within the Hatchet off-season program, that there is a strength bias track, a conditioning bias track, and a balance track. And this is our way of saying you do need to attack your weaknesses, you need to address these things, but we don't like the idea of putting you on an island on your own specialty program. So you will have a lot of crossover with other athletes, and then you will have sort of specific programming crossover with the athletes who follow the same track as you. So we are keeping you guys on the same program while also giving you an opportunity to work on your weaknesses. And then on the MFT side, I mean, shout out to anybody who qualified for semifinals. The biggest question that you need to ask yourself as you're listening to this podcast, if you aren't following Misfit Athletics as of now, is do you know how to peak for semifinals? Does your coach know how to peak? Your programmer, all of that good stuff. There's something very specific that goes into how you get an athlete ready for a weekend of not necessarily very high volume, but extremely high intensity. Being able to dot a lot of I's and cross a lot of T's and check a lot of boxes can make or break your season. And historically, we have been one of the best programs out there to get someone to go from, maybe this placement. We're also on YouTube right now, and I'm throwing hand gestures
right now, guys.
Yeah, it's below my eyes. Sure, if you want to go the meter, and then quarterfinals here,
just above the eyebrows,
and then semifinals here,
about a foot above his head.
Yeah, thank you, thank you for that translation. That is one of our specialties, is getting athletes ready for this type of competition. So, if you have qualified for semifinals and you're worried about that, do not DM me in May. I mean, you can DM me in May.
It's just less helpful
because you always do. But it's March, and that's sooner than May, and you can get started on this right now, misfitathletics.com. 2 weeks for free, and I think most important part of when you get that free trials, you see your week in advance laid out in front of you. You get a real feel for what the programming is like, what the wording is like, and then you can jump into Discord and be like, what the fuck does this mean? How do I accomplish this? Who else is following this? Are you on this track, that track, all that good stuff. And then last but not least, Misfit Summer Camp, our most community forward and focused camp that we have all year, June 23rd through the 25th, Portland, Maine, Misfit Athletics HQ. We get to go outside. We get to, potentially have a beach event, or at least last year we had the beach Q&A. It's the most fun camp that we have. All of our camps are really fun. If you want a testimonial from someone that is not the people selling it to you, discord.gg/Misfit Athletics. Just ask the people that have been to a camp, put a little sort of personal spin on it. This is where I'm at in my journey, or I'm interested in coaching, or I want to compete at this level, that level. Throw some details about yourself in there, and you'll see the reaction that you get from people that have been at camp. And we still have the movement breakouts and the athlete IQ conversations, and we go in depth, but we do things in a bit more of like a team setting. There's more outdoor stuff. So we really lean into the fact that community is part of what made Misfit Athletics and what can actually make an athlete better. June 23rd through the 25th. You can get your tickets now at misfit.camp. Hey guys.
Yo. How's your podcast?
Good. Thank you.
Good. I'm glad.
How about you? I mean, I'm going to say snack chat. You guys have anything that you can bring to the table, Or do I need to start off by telling you I just had 8 egg cups from Starbucks?
Nice. Yeah, Caroline just told me you can get the gluten-free mint Oreo right now, which I didn't know was a thing, and I love mint and Oreo together, so I'm gonna.
I go full terrorist mode when I see toothpaste candy on Instagram.
You start burning down the store.
I send not very nice messages to people. I yuck their yums. You could just get chocolate cookies and put Colgate on them and eat them, and you would have basically the same thing.
Do a blind taste test between
mint chocolate is fucking gross.
Yeah,
Snack
I'm not
chat.
a big mint chocolate guy.
I am. Because I like chocolate. I don't care. Chocolate cat turds.
My snack chat recently, and I accidentally DM'd Sherb before it last
Accidentally? This is weird.
Manchurian candidate, you ate a cookie and your head turned?
No, so been on the crumble train pretty hard, like once a week.
Hey, one 1/100th of a cookie is only 1,000 calories.
yeah, but one serving's 8 calories. I don't know how it works. But, so I meant to. I Crumble had a story where they were like, you can build your own or vote on like the next cookie that they make,
like March Madness.
It's like March Madness. Like
and you went like street team on it and started knocking on people's doors with pamphlets.
I accidentally forwarded the story to Sherb, and I was like, tell me what you vote on this. And I meant to send it to Mallory, my girlfriend.
That is confusing.
I was
feel really good.
Well, M-A.
Sort of
that's where
Freudian slip we got going on over here.
So anyway,
what are you voting on?
I slid into Sherb. Well, it turns out I actually sent it to both of you. So I just accidentally had clicked your name as well when I sent it.
I'll give you my answers.
But anyway, yeah. So I sent Sherb the cookie.
What were the options and what were the votes?
But it was like one of those weird. It was like tell me how you vote, and like Sherb and I don't send each other. We just send each other stupid shit on Instagram, and Sherb's like, okay.
Sherb's down.
He did it. So here we can vote here. Where did I send it? So here, would you rather eat?
We're not doing would you rather's on
Yeah,
here.
you are.
No 50-50s.
Pie or brownie style, like the cake, like the base.
What? Pie?
Would you rather it be like a pie type cookie or a brownie?
I actually don't know the answer to that because I need to be further down the line. I need more variables.
Okay. Would you rather have a sandwich style cookie or a cake like style cookie?
What's the flavor?
That's the next round. You're deciding on the base of the cookie.
I like pie and brownie.
He's doing really well with this. He's crushing this.
You suck. Thank God I didn't accidentally send this to you.
All right, so between pie and brownie.
I would have cheated. I would have gone forward.
Between pie and brownie, I'm going brownie.
I need to go in reverse order.
Can you clarify for me what the fuck a pie-based cookie would be?
It'd be like a key lime cookie, like key lime pie cookie.
Yeah.
But that's not pie-based. That's just flavoring.
Flavor?
I thought you meant like a crispy, crusty cookie.
I mean, they do. It is more. It is
crisp.
like it does
flaky,
impact,
buttery,
like, the type of cookie. But yeah, it's like what Sherb said, and like.
So I went brownie
like a key
versus
lime
pie.
So it's like maybe a little bit more graham crackery flavor.
Second one was sandwich versus
brownie.
cake.
Sandwich versus a cake.
I went sandwich because like ice cream cookie sandwich. That's the vibe I'm going with.
Pretty
versus
impressed
cake.
that you've memorized this so far. What
next one's cupcake and milkshake, and I went milkshake.
I wasn't tracking on the milkshake thing, but I'd rather have a
milkshake.
cupcake style cookie.
How do I have a milkshake cookie? This is really
That's a good
confusing.
question.
And then last but not least, it was like wild card or cheesecake, and I went wild card because like cheesecake I know is like could be a good thing, but wild card could be even better. I don't know.
Wow. Crumble cookie, you got to step up your fucking game
anyway,
because this is the most confusing shit I've ever heard in my life. Do you have more context if you're a crumble cookie addict for those?
I think anyone who
questions
eats them regularly, they would get it.
Yeah, you could.
Like, what are their
think back,
pie cookies?
They have a key lime pie cookie.
But is it just a sugar cookie with lime?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a cookie that tastes like key lime pie.
I didn't know that. Also, there are awesome pies and gross pies. I don't want fucking mincemeat.
Shepherd's pie crumble cookie.
I'll eat that.
Holy shit, sure.
Mashed potato, ground beef.
So excited right now.
That's like my birthday fucking dinner every year. Shepherd's pie.
Yeah. So.
What veggies are in it though? Did it have peas in it?
No. It was corn, potato, ground beef.
Yeah.
Nothing else. So lots of butter and salt,
I thought
pepper.
shepherd pie had peas in it. Like peas.
Yeah,
and
my
carrots.
grandmother makes it that way, and I'm like, it's gross.
My family's from Northern Maine. Sherb's from Wyndham. It's corn.
Yes.
Okay. It's
corn,
real shepherd's
potato,
pie is lamb
carrots.
and not beef, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's carrots, peas,
and corn.
Yeah, no.
Toenails.
We're talking beef that was already brown in the display, a lot of salt and pepper.
Manager's special beef.
Called aged.
Yeah.
Comes in a giant tube at
Mixed
Walmart.
with a bunch of corn topped with mashed potatoes.
Cream of corn or like dry corn?
I mean, I never made it, but I would
Like
be
when you-
upset if there was cream of corn.
Are we explaining what shepherd's pie is to listeners?
Yes.
They not
Isn't
know.
that what they're here for?
If they're still listening.
Listen, when we walk
Two of you
next
listening.
door and talk to members about listening to it, they want to talk to us about Snack Chat. They've heard
That is
enough
true.
Could care less
about the old
about it.
It's the
2159s.
most popular
Yeah.
segment, including all
It's
topics.
true. All right, Sherb, you've got a tall task here. What can you bring
is
to
it?
the fucking table?
I did. I answered all the questions.
No. No.
Sherb answered my weird DM.
Snack chat, snack chat.
I don't cook my oatmeal. I love mustard.
Damn, those are all my topics. I don't cook my oatmeal. Everything's got mustard on it. Ah, man. I guess I gotta describe like why I don't like the oatmeal the way I.
I feel like that's a good snack chat
'Cause
topic.
these
for-
guys
for
get
the
upset
listeners.
because-
well, explain to the people exactly how you consume.
You
your
also
oatmeal.
don't know. You
I'm not gonna
also
talk.
are just not
talk for me.
aware of the insanity that is you.
Just
You're swimming around in a reality of your own that is not normal for other people.
All right, so here we
my
are.
reality.
Here you are at 9 a.m.
Yeah, 9 a.m.,
10:30, 1
get to
minute
the
before the
gym.
podcast.
Yeah, 1 second before the podcast, I'm getting ready to make my
Ted,
oatmeal.
plug your ear, sure, make your oatmeal noise.
So I'm gonna pour a couple packets in my pink bowl. I have this nice big pink bowl Noel gave me. It's plastic. I'm sure hot water is great in plastic.
Yep.
So I pour the 2 or 3 packets in. Get the water really hot in the coffee water boiler there. What do you call
Coffee
it? Kettle?
water boiler,
Whatever
yeah.
you call that, the kettle.
Okay, yeah.
Get up to 212. Pour that water on there. Wait about 7 seconds,
Yep.
and then start eating. After I mix it up. Now the problem is these guys like microwave their oatmeal.
No.
They're like this
No, I
mushy, gross, like what feels like a mush banana vibe in oatmeal. And I just can't handle it.
So-
I didn't know you put hot water. I thought you just poured tap water on it.
Imagine
Like warm
puddles. I scoop a puddle out
warm
front.
tap water.
imagine waiting another minute 45 and
Who's got that
having
kind of time?
cooked oatmeal. It's the same process. You never know what the fuck is going on or where you're
Sure
at.
needs a bowl
You could
of
wait.
raw oats,
Where am
hot
I?
water.
Yes.
and
Where
hot
am I?
water. That's what it is. It's raw oats with hot water. I didn't know it was hot though. That makes
Yeah,
me
it's
feel
hot.
only slightly better.
You've seen it though. It's not cooked.
I know it's not cooked.
He also
like-
puts all of his accoutrements in it first,
know that.
which is you don't do that.
It
You
comes-
let it cook and then you add it.
But no, it's in the packet all mixed, pre-mixed. So like I don't.
No. I've seen you like put protein powder and shit
Oh,
in
I
there.
have done that. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fair. Yeah, that's fair.
And it absorbs the heat and it gums up and it doesn't cook the oatmeal.
It's delicious.
You learn
Am I
that
a
kind
serial
of
killer or does anybody else do this? Am I the only one that does this? I just don't like the mushy texture.
Ask the Misfits. Do you eat your oatmeal?
But
Cooked or
again,
not
I
cooked?
don't think
Cooked
you
or
know what like can I make you oatmeal
Like,
and you tell me if you hate it?
Ooh, yeah. Maybe
right.
some oatmeal.
oh yeah.
I'm going to make
There
him
you
some
go.
oatmeal because what he's explaining is the instant packets. You put them in the microwave, and like if you wanted to kill someone, you could throw a handful, and it
like
would
tar and
stick.
feather 'em?
Yeah, it would stick to their face and burn their skin off.
Fuck.
That oatmeal is annoying as fuck. I mean, half of it stays in the bowl, right? You do one packet, it's a pain in the ass.
Quarter a packet after.
right? But like actual oatmeal, like oats with boiling water that sits there for whatever
3 minutes.
yeah, it cooks itself.
got that kind
and
of
it's
time.
not the
Yeah,
like
but you
gross
say it's a
sticky
texture
shit.
thing. You would rather eat the raw,
Exactly.
the raw uncooked oats
I'm
than
part horse.
like the softer.
also, I know that we've said this before, but new listeners, Sherb thinks the wool 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 noise when you roll the window down is peaceful. I believe
Soothing. Yeah, it's soothing.
Yeah,
It really is.
that's fucked up. That's serial killer shit.
Reminds me of being a kid going out with my dad's boat. You're going like, I don't know, 20, 30 miles an hour, and the wind is just flying by you, and it makes a similar noise. It doesn't bother me. It was soothing. It's calming. I can't explain myself.
Why is the wind going wool 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 on a boat when it's just whooshing by?
These things inside my head. Come on now.
That your ear is hitting the side of your head every
all
time
slapping around.
slapping around.
Water chopper, Drew.
things used to hang out.
Helicopter.
Yeah, exactly. You stop a water chopper.
Yeah, you don't have a water fucking nerd.
This will be my snack chat will be for locals only. Essentially, I don't think
I already
the
did shepherd's pie.
$692 gluten-free pizza from Otto's is all that it's cracked up to be.
It's very
It's
expensive.
not. It's not great. It's not enough food, and it's only like good. It's like a 6 maybe.
I feel like gluten-free pizza.
Sixes are the worst.
Right,
Against
but
the
like
grain pizza is maybe the best gluten-free
Yeah.
pizza I've had personally.
Monty's has gluten-free pizza now, and it's actually worth spending a little bit more money, and it is quite a bit bigger as well, which is nice.
Bigger than Otto's or bigger
yeah.
than the normal?
Yeah, much bigger than Otto's.
At Otto's, it seems like they scoop the pasta sauce with like a ladle and just throw it across the room at the pie, and some
Yeah.
of it gets on the pie,
Yeah.
but some of it doesn't. Like, it's so inconsistent.
And then shout out James Chapmas gets free gift cards for all of Southern Maine because someone took a dump on his pizza or whatever. He's like talked to the owner multiple times because you get one of those like 12-year-olds in there making your pizza, and he's like, "I don't fucking care. You're fired. Sick. I get to leave." That's amazing.
It's true.
It reminds me of the time.
I've never had an issue with Otto's, but I don't get their any like specialty like gluten-free or anything
Yeah.
like that. I've had more issues with Monty's than Otto's, but
Yeah,
they're still good.
they gave us gluten pizza. Monty's the first time we got the gluten-free. They gave us one gluten-free and one non. And Maya was just like, my pizza is really good. Like, this is amazing. Like, you have to try it. And I was like, why does it look so much different than mine? Like, I don't understand.
Flip a coin.
And she did convince me to take a bite, but like, I like put my teeth on the corner like a little kid eating a vegetable or something. And I was like, yeah, it's good. And then we figured it out. And when she called, they were like, yeah, we made 1 and 1. Sorry. They gave us like a $50 gift card, but in hindsight, that was basically just a refund for one
Wait,
pizza.
as opposed to 2 gluten-free?
Yeah.
Oh,
so
I
I
see.
got a gluten-free
Okay, I
pizza. She got a gluten pizza. Yep.
Interesting.
Anyways,
Good.
it's good.
Check
And it's
it out.
exciting. You got to go. Gluten-free is typically only good if it's like a thin crust kind of situation. Like that's the style of pizza you were going for anyways. Like a Neapolitan, like a good undercarriage, that kind of thing.
Got a good undercarriage.
All right. Ted, you got any snack chats?
No, I mean, I've been making pizza like 3 or 4 days a week recently.
Yep.
Fuck.
I'll make a big batch on Monday, and then
Like of dough or a bunch of
big batch
pizzas?
of dough, and
Okay.
Throughout the week, I'll
Yep.
just use the dough periodically, like 3 or
Do you
4
still
days.
go mostly deep dish? Or do you?
No, I've been doing kind of New York style.
Okay.
Pizza recently.
Yep. Has
lower
it
on the
reached-
hydration scale.
Has it reached the skill level of your Detroit?
I'm getting there.
You're getting there?
I'm getting there. The
Yeah.
crust is really good. It's much better after like a 2 or 3 day proof in the fridge.
Okay.
Than, like if I make it the same night.
Yeah.
It's not quite as flavorful, but we're getting. It's not quite as.
I feel so uncultured. I don't know the difference between New Yorker. I mean, I know what the Detroit style, the deep dish with a crispy
The
crust.
New
is,
York,
but
the
You don't know what a New
thinner?
York style pizza is? It's good Sbarro's.
In New York.
Like that is New York style pizza. It's
I
not
Elo's
good.
fucking
pizza.
love Sparrow. Holy shit.
If you put enough,
Sparrow,
We
you could
need
get me in a
MS
rotation of Sparrow, Sarku, and Panda Express.
How are you supposed
for
to live at the
for like
mall
3 months.
food
Yeah,
court?
just rotate through that main mall, that 10 square feet of main
Shit,
mall.
you should get a
real
job at
estate.
Hot
tell us
Topic.
you grew up in a trailer park without telling us you grew up in a trailer park.
Get a job at Hot Topic.
Visit Hot Topic and Spencer's in between shifts.
Ooh, I still go to Hot Topic.
Fuck. Yeah, you
Band
do.
t-shirt.
They got great band t-shirts there. I have to.
Go on, Ted.
I have to.
What's a quick difference? Detroit's deep dish.
That's the end.
New York is thinner. What's Chicago? Like
Deep
thick
dish.
but round.
Yeah.
It's,
They don't-
it's a deep dish. The Detroit style is kind of like it's almost like a focaccia.
Okay.
Toppings that's
Yeah.
fried in the pan, so the bottom gets super super crispy, but it's
Yeah.
like a thick chunky boy with like a lot of sauce on it. New York is just thin in the middle with like
Yeah.
a bit of rise on the crust. It's got a very open crumb, so you get the big bubbles along the crust.
Sparrow.
And it's chewy.
Go on.
Listen, if you put enough garlic, salt, crushed red pepper, and Parmesan
Yeah, it's
on
the
that, and
seasoning.
you're 9 years old, it's
Right.
pretty good.
And
When I lived on Long Island and worked at Apple, I used to have to help the Sabaro family with their Tex-Mex.
wow. Do you have any lasting benefits?
Let's go Sbarro card. Free pizza for
You got
life.
free pizza for life?
No.
Fuck. How
Imagine.
anybody works with a company like that or like works for them and isn't also like, hey, like Chatmas has like works with Domino's.
Yeah.
Like, how do you not have like a lifetime free pizza card? It's like, I work here. It's one person. It's like, hey, I got all your tech support here. Like, how about just a free pizza?
Yeah, if
for
you're
life
talking to
card?
Frank
I've
and tech
spent
support, I
four-
don't think
I've-
he's on the. I don't think he's on the.
Free lava cakes,
Yeah.
kid. Give me some
Listen,
free
I've
lava
spent- I've
cakes.
spent 10 grand at Domino's over the last 3 years. Give me a free pizza card.
All right.
Let's get down to business.
Let's get down to fucking business here.
Brass tacks.
What are we talking about? CrossFit? Oh, okay.
Tomorrow.
Individual quarterfinals programming, not event specific. General thoughts. Go.
Yeah, I think that's my thoughts. There's some good workouts in there, some interesting tests, some subjectivity I don't really like with some of the standards of the movements. Specifically, just like
What movement standards didn't you like?
I don't like the V-up all that much. Like, I understand the idea behind it, but like when you start watching athlete videos and you see people are clearly like blurring the lines of what is and isn't acceptable, and because that.
But you don't know the fallout of the ramifications, whether there are consequences to moving that way
but
yet.
If someone gets away with what appears to be a roundabout way of going around the movement standards, and that video again counts.
I don't think that exists in the V-up, does it?
I mean,
You're talking about like a perfect profile view, so you can't tell if their feet are separated?
Well, that, or if someone's feet are a little bit apart, or they're not reaching for their toes, they're reaching for the tongue of their shoe, or if the hands.
What was the standard on contact?
Touches the foot. I think it touches the foot. The toes have to be above the top of the head, but your hands make contact with the feet.
Right.
I think the big one is that, or at least things that I've seen in videos of people posting, is like the feet just aren't together. And also, I didn't do the workout, but supposedly that is like noticeably more difficult to keep your feet together. Correct. For me, like along those same lines, it's not as much like the V-up's a fine movement. Like, it did what it was supposed to, I assume, based on the number of elite athletes who are folding themselves in half to do the reps, which I kind of expected to happen. I think anytime that you introduce a movement like that, especially at the higher level, there has to be more confidence that a untrained, effectively, judge is able to account for all of the movement standards. So it's like hands and feet touch the ground at the same time. Feet need to be together.
Did they address this in the judges course?
And the top. No, definitely. There's no. And then, there's that.
So everyone's untrained.
So everyone's untrained in the
by their standard,
aside from the bullet points that are in the thing. So like feet and knees, feet together, hands over the top of the head, feet and hands come off the ground at the same time. Contact is made above the head. Feet have to stay. It's like there's like 6 or 7 bullet points that have to be met, and the rep takes less than a second to complete. So you're asking just a lot of like who are effectively like, you can take 20 minutes. You could find the answers on Reddit for the judges course, take the judges course, be a certified judge, and be in no way qualified to do that. I don't think ultimately it will make a difference or have made a difference, but it's just one of those things where, like, if CrossFit is going to continue to introduce movements where there's more subjectivity and the onus is more on a judge, you're going to have more people complaining about the movement standards, when I think they could have easily done a different movement, and like an ab mat sit-up would have been easier. Like, heels stay together, touch the ground above your head, touch the ground in front of your toes. Like, if you want to do that, like, do an ab mat sit-up or something like that. Or why not toes to bar? Maybe similar movement. Maybe it's like athletes. Boz is like, hey, athletes can do, at the highest level, can do a zillion GHDs and it doesn't fucking matter. Here's a monkey wrench. Let's see what you can do with it. And I get that, and I've
got beef from a different perspective, but I'll wait to share it for when we get to event 4. If you're listening to this podcast and you are triggered by us talking about a specific event because the barbell was too heavy for you, or your conditioning just wasn't where you wanted it to be, you are a candidate for the Hatchet Offseason Program, which is starting today. If you're listening to this on Monday, March 27th, you can get 2 weeks for free at misfitathletics.com, and you are going to have the option to follow a strength bias track, a conditioning bias track, or a balance track while you're still involved in the community. You can still share scores and weights lifted and all that good stuff on Discord. This is the time of year where we really have to address what held us back. We need to jump right on it. So when everybody joins us back up, all the other competitors in the fall, we are ready to hit the ground running for the 2024 season. MisfitAthletics.com.
If you missed out on semifinals and you want to know what the supplements you need to get you there next year, you need to head to properfuel.co. Use the code word Misfit to save on pre-workout, post-workout, and hydration supplements, all with every ingredient you need and no ingredients you do not. Again, you can head to properfuel.co. Use the code word Misfit to save on your order.
And if you looked bad during quarterfinals, you need to head to sharpentheaxecode.com. Use any of your athletes' code to save starting April 7th, right?
April 7th.
April 7th. We are having our annual spring cleaning sale with gear between 20, 40, 60, and 80% off throughout the store. We got some new stuff coming in that will also be part of that sale. And again, don't forget to use your favorite athletes code. Help get them a little bit of dough towards their semifinals and games travel this season. All right, let's keep chatting quarterfinals. Yeah, I think that my big thing is just the more subjectivity there is, the more difficult it is. Like I think it's a lot easier to say like barbell thruster, squat below parallel, locked out at the top. Like there's much less gray area there than a V-up. And I think another movement with easier standards could have easily served the job that it was supposed to in that test specifically. So I think like overall, I like the workouts. We can talk about I'm sure we'll chat about the crossovers and like those sorts of movements, but I think they were good tests. There was, I don't know that we would have let 2 21:15.9s in the same weekend get away with.
Sure would.
Fucking
Back-to-back
salivating.
back-to-back 2 21:15.9s. But yeah, it was a good test. Seemed to really challenge folks. Shook up the leaderboard quite a bit, which I think we kind of expected, especially with the two workouts with a little bit of nuance to them.
You know what I mean? Like we got the leaderboards we thought we were going to get for the most part.
I think we got the final leaderboards we expected.
Yeah.
But I think what will also happen at semifinals with a bigger field is that like all of a sudden, like one athlete who found their way into the top 30 or top 60 at the end of this quarterfinals weekend managed to have it do so with a plate with like a 300th or something like that with an outlier workout. And the more we introduce variance into those tests, the more outliers we're going to see. And it'll be, again, more about like who can average out the best finish rather than hammer one and just completely tank another one.
Yeah.
It's just, you're just mad about it? That's the whole take, or what?
I mean,
and we obviously are going to go event by event, but
yeah, again, I think the tests got the right people, are going to get the right people to the next stage for the most part, outside of a few outliers. Maybe you couldn't figure out the crossovers in time, or you just haven't been training that much midline, and that workout really kills you there. You know, just kind of thinking about our own Austin at home, like basically had he been able to be a little bit more conditioned in that type of workout, like he has the fitness to be a semifinalist. He is one of the fittest people on earth, but obviously that's one chink in his armor right now. That really kind of it got exposed this weekend. And, you know, overall, I like the addition of, again, I do think novel movements are a good thing to have as we get closer and closer to the CrossFit Games, because I do think that one of the jobs of the games, semifinals and quarterfinals, is to push the community along. So like I really enjoyed the addition of the wall facing handstand push-up, and I really appreciate the fact they had a very easy standard to follow for a lot of people, as opposed to the games where they had the judge trying to like look at the top of the head in the line. I'm so glad that wasn't a thing. Like there wasn't some sort of deficit wall facing handstand push-up where you had to like, is the head in line with the plates or whatever. So I was really happy about that. But and, you know, I think the time domains and everything was pretty well balanced in that regard. So as far as like balancing the tests in terms of short, medium, and long, I think they did a pretty good job of that. You know, thinking of the athletes doing it at the ultimate expression. So like event 5 for a lot of athletes, we might consider closer to like the long end of short, whereas like the fittest people on earth are doing that in like 4 or 5 minutes, which is definitely short. Then you get your long workout with a 20-minute AMRAP, and then you got a couple of them that are in that like 7 to 12 range. So I thought the tests overall were pretty balanced in terms of time domain and stimuli. And it was nice to get all three. We got gas, we got muscle overload, and we got cardio in the whole weekend. So from my perspective, it was nice to see that balance. I just don't like I wasn't a huge fan of the V-up and the crossovers, you know.
So I'm going to call you out, but it's as an exercise.
Cool.
Is there any shred of you were able to immediately execute on the wall-facing handstand push-ups and you struggled trying to figure out the V-ups and the crossovers? Does that, because you are in a unique situation where you're a coach, programmer, but you're also an athlete, looking at this from like a part of that is an assessment of your fitness.
Is the only one that you did the GHD one?
2 of them. I did the first workout that had the wall facing handstand push-ups and the GHD workout.
So you didn't do the crossover one?
I messed around with that jump rope.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be full disclosure. I'm not very good at jump rope, so that movement's still something I'm struggling with. You know, I've probably ripped off maybe 15 or 20 in a row, but like they're not like comfortable and relaxed. Like you watch the athletes who are good at them, they'll start taking a nap. Not the case. So there might be some personal bias in that. I honestly didn't find the V-ups to be miserable, but I also got called out during the workout for being someone that had my feet apart, and I don't think I was doing.
He
it
didn't put
necessarily
his
to-
score on the leaderboard. Asterisk.
Yeah, I also didn't sign up.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
there's that.
I'm just
But I do think there probably is a little bit of personal bias in the crossovers. I think it's good that the jump rope is being used in different ways. Like, I don't think it's a problem with the crossovers. It's just like, I feel like if that workout was double unders, it'd probably be a slightly better workout. I mean, just personally thinking about how people would go through that. Just my own personal opinion there. Like, you can make the argument that the crossover was the right move.
I think the problem is the perspective in which athletes are seeing the programming from, that they're only supposed to be tested on work capacity.
Is it a good workout? Yeah.
And that is not what the sport is. And there's a lot of, I am reminded of the early days of CrossFit when Boz talks about CrossFit and talks about the programming. And there's a bit of, then we have to open up the can of worms, probably a separate podcast episode. Was the original intent of the programming to find the fittest on earth? And should these methodologies and theories be split off? Like, we know what the sport is. We've been doing it for a while. I think we all believe that that is the fittest person on earth. And then there's the balance, coordination, and all these other parts of the physical skills. They used to ask us to dick around with weird stuff with the jump rope. The wall facing is not new. That's something that we were messing around with in, 2008, 2009, because it would come up in a CrossFit journal or a video or something to that effect. So these things aren't new. In fact, they're very old, and they're being brought back to the forefront by, I think there's something to Castro talking about, how he would build a Navy SEAL. That's how he programmed the CrossFit Games. And Boz is like a early disciple who also, I believe, was a circus performer.
Yeah.
He was.
And he was the guy for these movements back in the day.
Yep.
He was the one where he would do, I feel like he did a pistol on top of a
Weighted
kettlebell.
pistols, yeah, I remember
Like
those.
he did all kinds of crazy shit. And it's like, that is an element. Now, again, probably separate conversation. Where do the sliders go? How often are we doing these things? But the reason I asked Sherb that question is because I want to call a bunch of people out, and I want to do it because I want to challenge them to improve how they can do an open quarterfinals, wherever they're going, and potentially just their mindset in general. The idea of this feels unsafe and it feels like a slap in my face and a challenge is something that's running way back in your processor, and it's manifesting as, this is fucking stupid. I don't want to do this. I don't like this. And no matter how you feel about it, that type of attitude will not allow you to figure out the skill in the moment. And it's a really easy way to just sort of put the onus on somebody else instead of yourself, in terms of how fit you are, what your skill acquisition is. And if it is our job to, through the programming and sitting in this room and making content to make people better, then we need to talk about this from this standpoint. And if I personally could think of a relatable example and I was young enough and I listened to a podcast like this, it would be fucking double guns, kiss my ass. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. We're talking about crossover double unders. Like, do I have to sing the song from the playground at the same time? If you're still there mentally, I get it. I've personally been there. But again, we got to get you from that spot to where a lot of other people are, where it's like, yeah, that was kind of dumb, but slowly,
Who cares?
1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks after, you start to realize I probably should have had a better attitude and tried to figure this out. Like, there's a culture next door to our affiliate, and we got people whipping themselves with jump ropes for an hour plus on Thursday and an hour plus on Friday before they went into it. There's a culture of, let's figure this out. And if you don't develop that culture or that mindset on a personal level, you're not going to be able to be a part of that. That drags other people along. And that's what we're trying to do on the podcast. Like, there were people who would have been that guy or girl next door that just saw, oh, we're just figuring it out. That's what we're doing. Like everyone's kind of laughing and, hey, did you see my ass?
It takes one person to decide
6 stripes
which
on
direction it's going, right? It's
Exactly.
like the first person's like, this is fucking stupid. And all of a sudden everybody's like, yeah, this is stupid. The first person who's like, all right, I'm going to go grab this jump rope. All of a sudden everybody follows suit. And now everybody's whipping themselves together.
I actually heard you describe this really well to someone that was trying to figure it out. And I think it was Nicole. You're like, you're at odds right now with your frustration and your ability to learn. They're at inverse sides of the spectrum here.
Yeah.
The more frustrated you get, the less likely you're going to want to try to figure these out. Yeah. So if you can just sort of like take a deep breath and realize that like everybody is figuring this shit out on the fly right now, because very few of you have been doing this ahead of time or have experience with crossovers. If you can drop your guard down so that you can actually focus on learning something, it's a much more conducive behavior to being able to get this skill down, because we know how much you care about what you're doing. But if you're just going into a pissed off attitude, it's not going to improve. And it's funny you say that, because after watching them do it on Friday, I went to the other gym in Wyndham and I spent the first 45 minutes after I warmed up literally just messing around with jump rope. And, you know, I like walked around. I was like, oh, thank goodness there are other people in here, because if there were not other people in here, I would be having a tantrum right now, throwing dumbbells, you know, around, spiking jump ropes on the floor. But again, it's not conducive to getting better at the skills. So like, just like when you learn double unders the first time, you whip yourself a bunch, you get frustrated, you might go, and grit your teeth a couple of times, but you know, that doesn't help you get better. And as soon as you can just get past and be like anything else that I've learned in the CrossFit gym or anywhere, I have to practice it and put myself out into the world and be like, I got to figure this out, because not everyone's going to learn things in 3 seconds. Some people learn them instantly, and some people take a long time to develop these skills.
You have an added level of responsibility, especially over at the gym in Wyndham. You do need to be the one to pick up the jump rope and start beating the shit out of yourself with it in front of other people, so that they know this is how we adapt on the fly. This is what we're doing. We're going to practice it until we figure it out. And then eventually we can start to have a better attitude about trying to figure something out, which typically greases the runway for, you know, how long it takes you. The CrossFit Games, they announce this stuff. We've got, 30 minutes sometimes with an athlete, tops, to be like, let's go figure this out. And it is this fucking roller coaster of like, I can't do this. Yes, you can, but you need to do it this way. Okay, they go back. It's a little bit better. Like, you need to get better at getting better at those things, so that when they do happen in a moment where you can't practice all Thursday and all Friday, that you can adapt on the fly, and most importantly, believe that you're capable of doing so.
And it's funny, you just described sort of the reason why I threw out the goal of trying to qualify for semifinals this year as like an out into the world kind of thing instead of keeping it to myself. Is I thought
you meant you threw it away, and I was like, what?
No,
fucking news to me. No. This is not a safe space. No, you're not.
Threw it out into the universe because I think so many people are afraid to put their goals out into the universe because they're worried about someone holding them accountable. And I really do think, as a leader, both like at Misfit Athletics, but at our 2 gyms, like I wanted to try to create a situation where people start to do that more often, because Hunter and I see it, you see it next door. When we go next door and it's this competitive season around quarterfinals, everyone has this extra level of give a shit. They're there a lot longer. They're doing all the things they need to get ready. And that like percolates right around the competitive season and starts to dissipate throughout the year. And then this comes back around. People are really invested again. And, you know, people who have been working hard see tremendous progress year after year. But for a lot of people, that like drive to be better is only right around the buzz of the opening quarterfinals. And something we want to try to create over there is an atmosphere where it is cool to be like, you know what, I'm going to set out to do this goal. And if I fail, I fucking fail. But who cares? At least I was brave enough to go out there and try to do this, because so many people have these big aspirations, but are too scared to tell anybody else about it. So there's no accountability there. So as soon as they start to feel some adversity or they're not feeling great about it anymore, they can just kind of crawl back into their cave and no one knows the difference. So I think it's a really important thing for, if someone really does want to make a big splash and make a big change in their fitness and their performance from year after year, you got to put it out in the universe, and then you got to seek help to try to get better at that, because it's not for a lot of the year, it is a very lonely journey where you're just kind of in the gym in the afternoon, no one's around, fucking swinging on the rings for 800th time, being like, man, I really wish my muscle ups would be better. But those people that do those sessions over and over and over again and have someone to work with to get better at those things make tremendous progress, and like look no different than Julie in the gym. I know that one of her goals this year was to have a team at quarterfinals. We didn't qualify our team at quarterfinals, but she jumped up, I don't know if you know the exact amount of places, but in a tremendous growth from
57% improvement from last year. Ended up being, I have a picture of it somewhere.
You need to do that math, or find someone that knows how to do that math, because those things, it can feel like you're still going full Roadrunner style and spinning your wheels, and you're not. You're actually progressing a tremendous amount. And we've had to do that sort of like damage control next door already with a bunch of athletes.
A lot of times
who are like, I'm still not where I want to be. And it's like, good.
Well, it's
keep
like,
the motivation going.
it's,
You got way better and you'll continue to do
it's
so.
that, or it's compared to what? It's like, what do you mean you're not so much better? It's like, here's the mat. Like, literally, that's part of the reason we tell people to sign up for the open and quarterfinals so that you have the hard data where it's like wrong. I think the only other thing I want to add on the crossovers is I kind of see like when a movement like that or something new gets thrown in, first of all, it's far less frequent now that we see a new movement get introduced to the sport. So we see it a lot at the CrossFit Games, but athletes are like, there's the understanding that is like the testing ground for the weird fucking shit. Because there's seminar staff who's doing the judging. There's like, it's supposedly been tested enough to know exactly how this should go or might go or whatever. And games athletes are like, we get it. Like, this is part of the CrossFit Games where we're going to get some new shit. You have beginner athletes talking like brand new people to CrossFit or very, within a year or two, they're still figuring out kind of your standard CrossFit movements, right? We're not even necessarily cracking into like these super weird nuanced movements because either athletes just don't have the base level proficiency of kind of their foundational counterparts, or they're just working on the other stuff. And then there's the big, what I would say is probably the most athletes kind of sit in the middle. It's like, I have spent enough time doing CrossFit to have developed enough proficiency in my thrusters, my pull-ups, my rowing, all the kind of classic, quote unquote, classic CrossFit movements. I work really hard year round to perfect those and to improve my capacity. And then I get thrown this unexpected kind of monkey wrench, and that can derail the entire weekend. Yeah. And I hear it so often from people, like when a movement like that comes up, or you throw in some sort of weird, like, I don't know, like trying to think of a good example, like you've got a partner and you like partner is planking and you crawl under them and then you hop over them, and people are like, this is stupid. That's not CrossFit. And it's like, those are the athletes where I'm like, we don't have a, like, I have failed as your coach because you do not know what CrossFit is.
Yeah, insecurity is a hell of a drug.
Yeah, it's like, and it's like, so if it's something that you're not familiar or comfortable with, does that automatically get slotted into this is not CrossFit? Or is it like we have been comfortable with the certain level of movements and weights and time domains that we've experienced over the last however long, that something new is like, this isn't CrossFit, like automatic shunning.
It is CrossFit.
Yeah, and it's like, that's fine, but here's the test. So it's either CrossFit or you're not playing. So you pick.
And if you've been in this community for long enough, this has been happening the entire time. These conversations, these criticisms, as the sport has evolved. When we went from 2008, 2009, 2010, we thought we knew what the sport of CrossFit was. I personally was preparing for the 2011 Open, and my DT time was money, and my mile run with a vest on was great, and I had sets of muscle ups and wall balls and chest, like I thought I knew what, my back squat was where I wanted to be, that sort of thing. First workout was a 95-pound barbell and a jump rope, and it was just like, no, this is the sport of fitness. This is the sport of work capacity. And the only workout that I crushed was the one that smelled like DT. That was the only one. And immediately you have this like, oh, this is dumb. This is stupid. Although for me, from that, my like programming brain lit on fire. When they announced that workout and I realized what it was, I was like, I can fucking bury someone this way. Is amazing. like talking about just like, and the writing was on the wall with how they explained, force production and work and all that stuff at the L1. We're looking for longer ranges of motion. The power snatch and the thruster is like, it's too much, guys. Come on.
Too much.
So this has been happening the entire time.
Sounds better.
Yeah. It's not new at all. So the like gut reaction, the like big, like, oh my God, are you kidding me, with a new handstand push-up and the jump rope and the V-ups? This is dumb. Like, it's just not going to come from us, because I think we've seen the sport evolve and there be different things in the sport for a long time now. And the gut reaction with big changes every single time is like an explosion of this is stupid.
Yeah, and just know that's a normal reaction for you to be like, oh, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
But there's wasted energy in getting worked up over it. That energy that you could use to figure out the movement, you're wasting getting worked up over it, and that's just not a good use of your time.
It's also like, think about the introduction of a movement and what its potential trajectory could be. Like, okay, crossovers happen this year. Like, crossovers happen next year. And then everybody's like, okay, fuck, like, should probably figure this out.
Yeah.
And like 2 years from now, people like at the highest level are doing the fucking crossovers like Buddy Lee with his jump rope.
Yeah.
And it's like, holy fuck, this is like the triple under equivalent. Like, this is a metabolically demanding movement that requires skill, the accuracy, coordination, kind of all the neurological adaptations that CrossFit talks about. And now people are good enough to make it like a metabolically demanding movement. And it's like, it's not gonna be stupid in 3 years if that's the trajectory.
Didn't we see it this year though? We saw some athletes who got 8-9 minutes into the workout and went, holy fuck, this is actually a workout as well.
Yeah.
It's not just,
that's what I said. I told Kelly that. It was like, she figured it out relatively quickly and was like, 40 double unders takes me 20 seconds. I'm like, okay, great. So now what you need to realize is that you have 32 reps of a heavy dumbbell movement of two metabolically demanding dumbbell movements and 20 seconds of whatever you want to call it. Cheese dick jump roping, rest, focus, whatever it has to be. But this is 12 minutes of like a heavy dumbbell complex. So let's not turn this into like the mirage of like, can I do crossovers? It's like, this is a work capacity test if you can do crossovers.
Well, and if the thing, when Kelly's name pops up, it's like if you had asked me, put out a bunch of names on a piece of paper and check off who you think is going to figure this out, I would have checked her name off.
OG CrossFitter.
Well, it's not just that, but her personality type and some of the character traits that she has lean towards someone who's going to like kind of stay even keel and try to figure the thing out, as opposed to, all the jump ropes get ripped off the wall and thrown into the woods and this is fucking stupid. And, what am I at a circus or, whatever it is.
Things I said.
Before we go event by event, I want to quickly shout out the people on Discord that have talked about quarterfinals thus far. I'm the kind of person who's like, I wear it like hard on my sleeve when it comes to did I help make you guys better? And when we get a time of year where we can measure that, I'm secretly measuring as much as possible. I am looking up your name when you're talking about how you did. I'm looking up how you did in the past, how you did this year. Is there any correlation? I'm really going through all of those different things. And the feedback that we've gotten from the athletes has so much of the athlete IQ wrapped up into it. It's incredible. People will list out every event that they did and what they did over the course of the year that helped them improve within that on the programming, what they know that they need to get better at. Like, the responses have been incredible. And like, there's an athlete in there who's going to semifinals this year that improved by, 250 places worldwide and like 150 within her region. And I absolutely love that, but it was talking about rowing intervals and things like that in the response to it. That's what really pulls me in, because for years we in the past, maybe the first half of Misfit Athletics or something, we really just wanted people to adopt these ideas like in the ether. Like they're floating in the sky and you need to see them and grab them and adopt them. And I think we've spent a lot more time in this room, like really like putting the info out there and telling people how they could attack it and how they could think about it. And obviously camp helps a lot, but just to have those types of responses where athletes are really starting to be a student of the game, like we preach, and like understand why something went well and why something didn't go well. And athletes are already DMing me and telling me they're going to follow the strength track or the conditioning track because this workout was this and this workout was that. That to me is the most rewarding form of this whole ecosystem does work and does come together in terms of, whether it's remote coaching or podcasts or whatever with the actual programming. Like, athletes are really holding themselves accountable and looking into why did I get better? What can I still do to get better? And it's pretty great.
Yeah, I was just thinking about what you said there about putting it out into the world, because for so long, the focus was so much on the brass tacks of what the programming was that we're just like, people will either catch on and really grow, or they won't, and that's kind of on them. And I think that the biggest change of the last half dozen years is being able to be like, all right, it's not enough just to put out good programming. We need to help you understand how to think about this for yourself.
Yeah.
And then what's great about that is that you will think of things that we didn't think of as important. You comment that in Discord, or you tell us in person at camp, and all of a sudden it, puts a light bulb in our head of like, all right, that's what we need to, focus on moving forward. So like, continue to comment in Discord and continue to come to camp and give us ideas, because that's always what gets our wheels spinning, so that we can better serve you to get you to become the fittest version of yourself. The more you talk to us, the more we can figure that stuff out. And I think that's probably the biggest difference maker of the last, half of the company's life, as opposed to the first half.
Yeah. All right, gents. Event 1, front squats, handstand walks, muscle ups, chest to wall, handstand push-ups. I thought it was really cool that in hindsight, it was designed to put you in a real shitty spot when you kicked up onto that wall. Like, that's what that entire workout was about.
Yep.
I think some athletes, I actually don't know. I would want to ask an individual athlete. I mean, you did this workout, but there are these ridiculous advancements year after year in the sport. And I wonder if the athletes also look at this and go, 225? Like, that's no walk in the park. That's a lot of handstand walks and then 15 muscle ups. You wonder if they look at it from the perspective of like, 12 or 18 months ago, this would have been a fucking slog. And now we've all risen up to the occasion together, and you kind of surprise yourself from 3, 2, 1, go into the 21 front squats. I'd be interested to ask a few athletes about that, whether they, carry the confidence in that, like, we keep figuring this out year after year. So whether I believe it or not, I bet people are going to blast through this workout.
Yeah. The thing that really made the difference for me, I think, is the lunging. I spent the entire off season doing a bunch of lunge work, front rack, back rack, back rack, over and over again. And, once a week doing somewhere between 50 and 80 lunges. And front squats have always been something that gives me trouble, but I didn't even think twice about the barbell weight once I got started. Adrenaline kicked on, first few seconds of the workout, you're doing the heaviest front squats of the entire thing.
Right.
And I do think that made a tremendous difference, because of how in the past that's been a movement that's been a sticking point for me. And it's not because I can't grit my teeth and go through them, but I'm significantly more efficient and in a better position.
Yeah.
Effectively, because the lunges afforded me the opportunity to work on some mobility-based stuff and front rack stuff that prior had been neglected for a really long time. So I agree with you. The game was about figuring out what your front squat capacity was and how hard you could push those ahead of whatever came next based on your strengths and weaknesses. I knew going into that workout that the handstand walk is a strength of mine, so I can be a little bit more aggressive on the first barbell. Muscle ups are a little bit sketchier, so like I may be a bit too conservative on the second set of front squats. I know you watched me go through it, and one of the things I said in reflection afterwards is I was able to do 2 biggest sets of muscle ups relative to what I thought I was going to be able to do, and wall facing handstand push-ups, which tells me that if this were my weekend, that I probably should have done the workout a second time based on the fact that I was able to do bigger sets of both of those things. So it was interesting to figure out like how much my strength had increased and how much my capacity increased on the barbell side of things. And then, using the athlete IQ, it quickly tells me like years ago, I've been awesome. Like, man, I did the muscle ups in 3 sets and did 4 sets on the handstand push-ups. That's great. But when I sit down with it and use the athlete IQ, it's like, all right, if I was able to do that, that tells me that I probably played things a bit too safe. And that's information an athlete could use having done that test to take forward. So if you were someone who went through test 1 and you noticed you were able to do big sets of muscle ups and big sets of handstand push-ups, you might have been able to go faster had you been, a bit more strategic about how you broke up the barbell or how you pushed your set. So overall, I really like the tests as opposed to, maybe something like a crossover for myself. But I think that workout was relatively well written and a fun test to figure out like who's brave enough to reach towards the end when they don't have that unknown element at the end of the workout.
I think the big thing kind of stepping back was like I talked to lots of different level athletes about execution of the workout, and a lot of it came down to a pretty good, like the athlete IQ side of like, how well do you know yourself? I think we all identified the fact that like everything you do up to the wall facing handstand push-ups is designed to fuck up your ability to do wall facing strict handstand push-ups. And if you decide that you want to look cool and do 10-5 on your muscle ups, and then you do have to do a forward roll out of every single one of your handstand push-ups because your shoulders don't work. It's like, was that useful? And so there's a lot of the athlete IQ that says, okay, do I do am I fit enough to do 2 sets on the second bar, or do I need to think about 3 or 4 sets? Am I fit enough to do X number of sets? And I don't mean necessarily like I can do this barbell, these 15 reps at this weight in 1 or 2 sets. Like, no, I wouldn't question most people's ability to do that. But it's, again, is this a smart decision in order to be able to do that last part of the workout, which is going to take a good chunk of time for a lot of people?
Yep.
Or are you going to kind of succumb to the adrenaline and just like, wow, I feel great in the moment, I must be fitter than I think I am. And then you're not. So I think I think it was cool to end on that. Again, like the more nuance in this quarterfinals in particular, there's going to be the question of like how much nuance, how many new unique movements is like too many before it turns into a circus.
Yeah.
I think they did fine with, I think the standard was good enough. I think there's probably going to hopefully be some like thoughts or improvements on how wide the tape needs to be, maybe from like the open perspective, or they seem to change the handstand push-up thing every year, but like,
yeah, I think get your change.
It was a good test. I thought it was a good test. It was definitely, like, obviously capacity had 80% to do with it, but there was definitely a strategy element. And this is like, here's some pretty manageable movements and manageable reps and manageable weights. Like, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to win the first 45 reps of the workout and then stand staring at the wall because you can only do one handstand push-up at a time? Or are you going to be smart so that you can, get the best overall time rather than the coolest muscle up sets?
I think I need to qualify the fact that I don't think anything in it was silly, because it'll sort of make the next statement that I'm making true for this instance. I think it was really cool that 2 CrossFit Games athletes could finish 6 minutes apart from each other.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy. And again, if there is something dominant like a 50-inch box jump or something, then no, that's not the case. But within this one, I did think that was really cool. I liked it from a programming perspective. From a coach's perspective, we have there's probably a statistical term that you're supposed to use, but the group in the middle.
Standard deviation?
Yeah, your standard
distribution.
Yeah, your normal distribution, standard deviation group, sort of no fringes on either side. Yeah. We have gone back to what feels better for a single rep versus what you should do to be able to do the most reps. And we haven't seen that in a while at the high levels, and we saw it a fucking ton with the wall-facing handstand push-up. And because we're at quarterfinals, I can say, I don't care if you can do one. It's got nothing to do with 21 of them. And it was the feedback that I really fought Sherb on. Like, you didn't fight back, but I was pushing pretty hard to say, you are going to want to put your fucking pubis on the wall and internally rotate because you're tired, and that is a relaxed type of position, and then you're not going to be able to do these handstand push-ups. You need to get into a true pressing motion, and one of the only ways to do that is with a neutral spine and with the feet not dragging on the wall or your crotch not dragging on the wall, whatever it was, and you stuck to that. And just a few cues while we were doing it, like you had one rep where you screwed up and you noticed it at the exact same time that I did. And it's just this idea of, and to clarify, we will have a video on like actually how to now go practice crossovers and the wall facing stuff. But getting into a position that feels really challenging from a posture standpoint, when you're really fatigued, you would trade that at the end of the workout to be done because you were able to cruise through handstand push-ups. So you're fighting. It's sort of like how you would focus on engaging your midline like really intensely through a front squat to make sure that you don't, fry X, Y, and Z for another part of the workout. Same sort of concept. Like you could front squat it and, your spine feels the wrath of you not bracing, but it will end up costing you. So we go in and we brace pretty intensely because we know that's going to be better. It's the same concept on the wall. And I don't expect everyone to figure that out in the moment with that short of notice, because that was the one where it was like warm up and go. But improving your posture in those will completely change the movement and your capacity.
And I had a little bit of an advantage there because I didn't do that workout until Friday, whereas a lot of people did that on Thursday. I'd watched
we were both coach and athlete, was looking at it from like, we got a lot of details now.
So I was watching, you know, Caroline go through it. I was watching our affiliate athletes go through it, and people who are, you know, at the affiliate typically good with, let's say, like, you know, normal handstand push-ups with a kip or strict, really struggling with this. And that's the number one thing I picked up on, is like the people who are the most consistent with the way they put their body on the wall to set up were the ones that had the best success. And like, you know, it was funny because Caroline posted a video of her failing one. She neglected to say the fact that she ripped off like a set of 10 or whatever to start with, or 8. And you know, she was also going super fast, which affects your ability to do big sets there. But you could see the difference between the people who were really understanding how to stack their joints and brace their midline throughout the entire movement, basically able to cruise through, even if it was only 2 or 3 reps at a time.
Even her, that would have been 1 or 2 sets for her in a the position.
Well, for sure.
It would have been a 7-minute workout.
And you see that happening. And then, you know, I know historically Austin's been someone that struggles with that a bit more. And that was really the sticking point for him, is being able to keep that same rigid body position as you went through his press. And that was effectively the difference between like someone who was able to continue to do them with minimal rest in between versus the people like, you know, myself, where I said I did bigger sets. I took some longer breaks, and, you know, if I had to do it all over again, I would take some shorter ones and potentially do smaller sets. But body position mattered as much, if not more, than how strong your shoulders were in that workout. And, you know, that's one of the reasons why I was actually a big fan of that movement, is that so often, you know, we have, I don't even know how many videos on YouTube about handstand push-ups, but for so long, we're always talking about positions, because they allow you to be efficient. Now you get exposed in a version of handstand push-ups where you can't rely on the old wall to take care of you and save you. You either are doing a good handstand push-up or you're crumbling.
You can't do the bench press because the wall is going to stop you from doing that.
Yeah, you're dragging your body.
The only thing I want to add before we go on to the next one is anytime we get a movement or a workout that forces some degree of movement efficiency compared to the abomination of a movement that CrossFitters have figured out how to do in order to meet an arbitrary standard, I'm all for. Anytime, like, if we can substitute wall-facing handstand push-ups so that nobody's doing the inverted bench press or the dog shit strict handstand push-up against the wall, like, I'm all for it, because it just like reinforces the idea that people who skip ahead multiple steps kind of don't establish like a solid foundation. And we talked about it. I don't remember when we talked about it, but like it is no longer the case that a minority of elite athletes move really, really well and the majority move kind of poorly. It is flip-flopped. If you move poorly, you are in the minority of competitive athletes, or you will certainly be as far as like how high you want to place on the leaderboard. Nobody with dog shit movement is going to sneak themselves into a highly competitive spot and be there for long.
Very true. Event 2, Sherb loves it. His favorite workout of the weekend, AMRAP, 12 minutes, some stuff with a dumbbell, and 40 crossovers. I'll just walk out to the edge of the cliff. I love this workout.
I don't say I love it, but why don't you elaborate before I just say
I don't know that I'm going to be able to say a lot more about it than what I said about the skill development, but just, you know, it pains me to say, because it was some of my own athletes who were tripping and ready to throw their jump rope and sort of have that moment. Mm-hmm. But that is an element of what makes you good at the highest level. And being able to take that from something that happens once or twice a year at the games to quarterfinals and have it be appropriate is a very tall task. It's really hard to do. Like at the games, they just give you a couple of those things where the athlete's like, oh shit, here we go. Got to figure this out immediately. We don't get that in the open. We don't get that at quarterfinals. We don't even really get that at semifinals. I mean, we had the year of the strict muscle up, but this forced that type of moment, which is the only way that you can ascend to being one of the best athletes on earth. And I know that that's a fringe benefit, but from someone who's watched every single year of the CrossFit Games, like, that is a very special thing. That's those athletes that just figure out what to do in the moment are the ones who win, because everybody else is also strong and also skilled and also fit. And they have that belief in themselves and their ability to adapt that, I'm going to go figure this out. I might even figure it out in round 2 or round 3 or round 4, but I'm going to figure it out and I'm going to catch you. You saw it last year with the double kettlebell thing. Everyone said that it was a big man's workout, and I mean, what place did Medeiros come in that workout? He was pushing with them.
Yeah.
Came sort of almost from behind to be able to do so, if my memory serves me correctly.
Oh, we're
and
talking about alpaca.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
Trying to
Because I mean, Roman was like, I'm big and I'm Russian, so like, thanks for no rope climbs. Like, he's not in our standard deviation conversation. He's what you would call an outlier. And then someone who weighs, 10, 20, 30, 40% less than someone like that was the outlier on the other side. But we saw people in the moment figure out the kettlebells and move past the people that were just able to muscle them early on. So
say the same thing with the sandbag. I mean, you have someone like Nick Matthew able to move that sandbag, a 300-pound sandbag at, I don't know, 185 pounds, 190 pounds. Like, it was cool to watch that at the CrossFit Games, those novel movements get tested in a way. Because, like, athletes at this point definitely train with sandbags, but how many of them do ladders with an ascending bag that gets to a weight that's not possible for them to move for more than a rep or two? Like, you see that skill acquisition happen. And if you are truly paying attention, you started CrossFit or you haven't done that and you haven't read the level 1 book, like, read that book and realize that, like, they're going to keep doing this. How they do it's going to be, creative, and we can't guess ahead what they're going to show up. But like, you need to prepare yourself for the unknown and unknowable, because that's been a CrossFit tagline for 15 plus years. You have to be ready for that.
Medeiros was 23 seconds behind Roman, 5th place. And I remember the beginning of that workout being like, uh-oh, somebody else going to the top of the podium this year.
I think I like the crossover. I like that more than I liked the V-up as far as like novelty movements go.
We'll get there. You guys get to have a second or third rant about V-ups once we get there.
And I also like the, again, whether you think it's a cheese dick movement or not, it's like,
it's kind of irrelevant, right?
It doesn't matter. It's like the jump rope.
Well, I didn't mean that.
The jump rope has always been a part of the sport. There's been a specialty, like CrossFit has hosted like specialty seminars, like exclusively with the jump rope. And
they play clown music the whole time too.
Yeah,
it's all like on like
everybody's on unicycles, jump roping on their head.
Will Ferrell's there doing the mime juggling.
And I think that there's also just the element of like, here's the coordination accuracy component, which I think people tend to kind of shun off as just like, oh, that's like for the ethereal.
And it was also a workout. Like, that is important.
I think that's the other thing too. It's like, if you could do this, it's 20 seconds worth of jump roping and 32 reps of a really shitty dumbbell complex.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's your separator right there. It's like, are you an athlete who has the general physical skills of kind of accuracy, balance, coordination, those sorts of things, and the ability to kind of, attack the unknown and unknowable? Like, none of this is unique in the sense that it's like, it is CrossFit. It is, I'm sure there's a line somewhere where it's like, because I love when the argument of like, it's not CrossFit, the counter argument is like, well, sort of everything can be CrossFit if it's like but I think that's kind of lazy as well. There has to be a line somewhere where it's like, okay, we're not going to do like, is there a way that we get bicep curls into the open? And it's just like, that's not CrossFit. They
did that already.
Yeah,
I know. So it's like, where's the line? What's the line of like, that's actually not really CrossFit. That's actually just kind of like,
but does the CrossFit Games have to be CrossFit? That's a whole nother thing too.
Yeah, so it's like, exactly.
We got
like,
another podcast idea for a week that we can't think of a podcast idea.
CrossFit Games, should the CrossFit Games be CrossFit? But yeah, I think like overall for the, again, general population, I didn't think really about that point where it's like the CrossFit Games athlete have that oh shit movement of crossover double unders. And I'll remind listeners that only 8 men and 8 women actually proceeded in that workout far enough to get the opportunity to do double under crossovers.
Yep.
And they obviously bumped the difficulty down a little bit, but still provided the quarterfinal level athlete with that oh shit moment. And to your point, like, if you were a quarterfinal athlete who said to themselves, oh shit, did the jump rope throw across the room, versus the other quarterfinal athlete who was like, okay, I got to figure this thing out.
Yeah.
There's a pretty measurable difference as far as like kind of that athlete maturity meter goes, as far as like the latter is the one who I'll put my money on to be more likely to be a semifinals athlete before athlete A.
Yeah, and the other aspect to this that shouldn't go unnoticed, unexplained, whatever, is the same mindset is what you need when they announce the workout at semifinals that is traditional CrossFit, that is like your worst movement and your second worst movement and your third worst movement.
Yep.
It's like, it's a fitness test. I'm going to go out there. I have my athlete IQ, all that good stuff. Event 3, I do want to cue this up a little bit by asking a specific question about it. We saw it last
jerk burpee box jump over.
Yep. We saw in the last Chance Kitchen, as I like to call it, last big Top Chef guy over here. We saw the shuttle run clean and jerk. I believe it was 10-1 or 1-10, something like that.
Yeah, 1-10, I believe.
You know which one I'm talking about?
No.
Last year it was clean and jerk and shuttle run with the ladder.
Yeah. Yep. It was 225 and 1-10. Yeah.
The shuttle runs were not shuttle runs in that workout. Austin did very well in that, and he likes to sling a barbell and doesn't love shuttle runs. Does it matter for the standard deviation crowd, as we'll like to call them, whether that term is accurate or not, that the burpee box jump overs were kind of
the normal distribution crowd? Let's use that.
Does that matter? Because obviously
no,
it mattered at the highest level. It was cool.
It matters because I think that was the lift. That was your lift for quarterfinals.
Okay.
It was 15 clean and jerks at 275, 185.
But is it not a lift if it's 8 or 9 or 10 or 11? I am just asking.
I would say it's
a devil's advocate.
It's more a lift.
I like that they baited people potentially into going a little too fast in the burpee box jump overs if they were a little maybe too confident, or maybe their athlete IQ wasn't up to snuff and they decided to push a bit more, not realizing that this workout was literally 15 clean and jerks for time,
right,
with a small inconvenience in between sets. I like that element to the workout. I think that the best people on earth were obviously going to be able to push the burpee box jump overs and grab that barbell and basically power clean, push jerk it all in one motion, pretty smooth. So I like that little like wrinkle to the workout, because if it was just 15 for time, I don't think it would quite have the same fanfare, and it would have, I think the same people probably would have done about the same capacity. I don't think it would have really shook up the leaderboard, but I do like the small bit of interference of like, are you lazy in your burpee and pressing with your arms, or are you jumping higher than is necessary in the burpee box jump over and being too dynamic and that messing up your ability to get hip extension on the clean and jerk? So I'd like the small bit of interference.
I think the burpee box jump over was the equalizer for the most elite athletes.
Right, yeah,
because
for
it was,
sure.
if it was
100%.
if it was 15 for time, then it's like, okay, strongest dude wins, most likely. Strongest guy, strongest girl who can power clean and push jerk and not die wins. The burpee box jump overs add just enough of metabolic fatigue for those athletes to have to be a little bit more nuanced about how quickly they do it. I watched when I judged Caroline, she moved pretty quickly through her burpee box jump overs, but still ended up standing at the bar, doing a rep, unbuckle the belt, take a step back, rebuckle the belt. And part of me is like, if you had just done burpee box jump overs that were like, step back, step up, here's a jump, like super slow reps, but you could go clean and jerk, hands on, clean and jerk. Like, would that have been a better overall time? So it's like,
potentially for her, yeah, but I think you would have been talking about maybe 30 seconds or something. Like, that was our main takeaway from the weekend, is like power clean, heavy power clean specifically.
Yeah.
Like, that was the main, like, okay, I want this. Same thing happened with her. She likes to squat clean and squat snatch. And the same thing happened with her the previous 2 years at the end of quarterfinals with that movement. And it was addressed, and she was able to, there's a video of her showing it off in the touch and go test that we had that she did with Paige, of being able to change that. So that one was a little bit specific to her, but in theory, if you generalize what you're saying about any athlete who did that, that's definitely the case.
Yeah, no, and I'm not saying that that was done incorrectly, but it was more just an observation as I was judging. It's like, there's a lot more downtime in this workout than there is like counting of reps. So I think for the elite, the burpee box jump over was the necessary like kind of wrinkle as far as making this a strength power workout, like the test being like kind of the lift. And just made sure that the fittest people were at the top of the leaderboard rather than just the strongest. There's still going to be some outliers there, but for the rest of the community, that was the lift. It was, here's a fixed, instead of a 1 rep max that you already got in the open, here's a fixed barbell weight we think that athletes moving on should be able to handle. And for a lot of people, it was like, I am at 90 to 105% of my 1 rep max here. How many times can I do it in this whatever the time cap, 10, 15 minute window, 10-minute window? And for a lot of people, that was, yeah, I did hit 4 reps. Like I hit 4 reps at 98% of my 1 rep max, and that's the win.
Yeah.
Wasn't necessarily meant to, not all tests are going to be completed by everybody, regardless of how fit you are.
When I'm evaluating this stuff and thinking about it from Boz's shoes, and probably how I think about a lot of things, here at Misfit Athletics, is the idea of, was the due diligence was like the legwork put in? And I'm going to use this as a segue to flip to the opposite side of the coin. I thought the due diligence was done very well in this workout. It was the right weight. It was the right rep scheme.
Yep.
We got to see these divisions in, caliber of athlete really well. I don't think due diligence was done on event 4. I think event 4 was the problem with event 4 was the exact same problem as what we had with the burpee pull-up shuttle run.
The row was irrelevant.
If we got to go long, right?
Have to.
That's I think something that we probably wouldn't argue with anybody about, is we have to go long. And I think he tried twice and failed twice so far this year. The V-ups were not the problem. I don't mind the standard. I don't mind any of that stuff. I mean, easy for me to say. I have somebody else judge and I coach and say, rah, rah, 5 more. But I don't have any issue with the movements whatsoever at all. I like that something weird was in there. I like that. I love movements like a strict handstand push-up, or stricter movements where your athlete IQ is going to be dialed in, and you also need to do shit like accessory work, and you really got to think about something from a different perspective instead of just, am I tough and can sort of hammer myself into the wall. When you remove the fitness from a 20-minute workout honestly, it's not even just at the highest levels. Like we saw athletes with very different work capacities and skill levels come out at almost the exact same score. And then in some cases, an athlete who has no business with having a better score than another athlete does, like in any test, basically. Mm-hmm. So when I see that, it's like, damn, I don't know. Maybe it was the wrong person to test it. Maybe the person just crushes V-ups and it was a bit more of a throwaway. But I don't love the idea that a bunch of people took different routes to get somewhere and ended up at basically the exact same spot. I think we could have looked at, closer to, not a true merry-go-round, but closer to that style, maybe only 500s and, less on the GHD, and you have to do sets of 10 or 15 V-ups more often. Without being in his shoes and testing with athletes, which is what I would do, I don't exactly know, but I know that I'm pretty damn sure it missed the mark on what they were trying to achieve. Yeah, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they were literally trying to see what your second set of V-ups was like. That's what they wanted.
That's the question, is what was that test
and why the fuck did we take 20 minutes to do it?
Why was it a 20-minute muscular overload midline capacity test and not a 20-minute test of fitness that involved we could have delayed the athletes almost in that, even in the first set of V-ups, a lot of athletes were starting to struggle. It's like, at what point do we want athletes to start failing, or for their almost like fitness reserves to start showing up, where a lot of people start to fall off at this time, some people start to fall off at that time. We saw that pretty early, and the instruction from us was don't row very hard. You could row 10 seconds faster per 500 on that 1K, be off the rower 20 seconds after a friend, and make that up over the course of 3 sets of V-ups and your 50 GHDs. And it's in the second 500, I was I don't care if you have to crawl to the rower and you're starting to pull that handle before you even sit down.
That was entertaining.
Start the handle going, because again, same thing. You could row 20 seconds slower per 500 over that 500.
Right.
Get off the road. It would do the same, have the same problem. So it's was that intended to be a cardio, more of a cardio
and
test?
I'm more sensitive to it because of how the one in the open went. It's did we swing and miss twice, or is this really what you wanted in both scenarios?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we had an affiliate workout yesterday that had shuttle runs that climbed from like 2s up to like 11s and 12s, and one of our coaches walked, and I was like, I didn't actually see, we saw the, like, there were all the YouTube videos of like, you can walk and get better in this open workout, and I was like, is that actually true? And I'm watching, and I'm like, huh, like, he is like, if he was more intentionally trying to walk at a deliberate pace, I think he could have kept up with a lot of the like equivalent level athletes who were running and be way less tired. So it is like, yeah, it's what was this test? Because the way that it looked to shake out was like, how long's your midline hold up?
Yep.
And it's like, is that the only thing that we were trying to test? And if so, where was the long aerobic capacity test? Not.
I know this wouldn't do a tremendous change to the workout, but if it had been like 2 or 3 minutes shorter, like in duration, then I think that final row would have had a little bit more incentive to push people, because they would have been on their third 1K and having to like sell themselves out at the end of the workout. Now, granted, it doesn't solve the problem.
Yeah, it'd be weird to only do one
GHDs.
set of V-ups.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm saying after the second set, like if you were going to end on the rower, like I know the elite athletes, a lot of them got off the third 1K and got a couple of GHDs, and like I sort of wished it was a bit shorter so everyone was.
But we got
on
to see
the rower.
plenty of athletes do that, and that was meh too.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like I wish that had been a bigger part of the workout. I like the.
I agree with that.
Can you like nut up and really put yourself in a dark place, knowing that like everybody's going to do the requisite 2 rounds ahead of it, but who's got that in the bag? But also when it matters at the very critical last couple moments of the workout, can you really dig a bit deeper? Because like a lot of the athletes I spoke to, like we're gonna row a 150 for the first 18 minutes, and then the last 2 minutes are gonna row a 140. I liked that element to it, because I think that's a really good part, or a really important part of like what fitness is having that grittiness and that toughness and that gear, even though you're fucking smoked to keep going. I sort of wish the workout was maybe a tiny bit shorter, so that would have been the incentive. So like you don't have someone like Medeiros doing a third set of 50 GHD sit-ups in the workout ending. And I'm sure he was in a lot of pain at the end of that workout after his third set of 50, but like
I don't know that that's the case. So many of the athletes got done that workout and went, eh.
Well, it's like, I think it was like, do you have the midline to survive that long? Right. Yes or no? And I think that it's way too, and we also just had multiple kind of like muscular overload workouts where it's like, can you keep going because your muscles work, or do you have to stop because they don't? And
you could argue 4 out of 5.
Yeah, sure.
Definitely 3, maybe 4.
Definitely 3, maybe 4.
Yeah.
Potentially 5. Yeah, that's a good point. Like totality of the test, maybe miss the mark, or is like, what were you trying to test? Then that would beg the question, what were the other things supposed to test? And like ultimately we did have, look at the leaderboard, like basically 3 short tests, a medium test, and a long test, kind of keeping in line with classic CrossFit.
The long test was like, play it safe the whole time so that you can't just
yeah, I didn't think.
I'm hoping we get the run the test videos like we did for the games. I think that would be a really interesting thing to see, like Boz breaking down the games workouts from last year and talking through them. I'd like to see the same thing happen for quarterfinals and semifinals, to hear kind of the perspective there, because a lot of times we're like assuming, we're trying to guess what he was trying to get out of the workout. I think we're probably pretty close to spot on, but I'd like to hear like that perspective on it.
He would need to curl his mustache before saying, I just wanted that second set of V-ups to be really challenging for me to believe that was an intention prior to. That's just a weird
unicycle.
It took us 20 minutes to figure this out. You could have asked for a set of 50 at the beginning and fucking called it a day. We didn't have to row that much. But then again, I mean, I do feel like, so like have to balance this out. Like, I do feel like 80% of the tests, the due diligence was done. So that's the segue into the next one. The final was pretty cool. It was a cool workout. It didn't have the finale feel, but then again, I'm not sure he wants to give us that anymore.
Yeah.
Based on the track record, I'd say you're right.
I mean, there were a few people who had the finale feel with how fast they fucking went.
Well, there were just a lot of people who were like, these fucking rope climbs. I mean, that again, once again, we sort of ended the way that we started, and honestly it's the same rep scheme and almost the same kind of
stimulus,
same kind of stimulus.
Lower
body,
it was
upper body pulling.
Yeah, it was.
I'm making myself mad over here. I need to stop.
Yeah, my critique of it is just that how similar it was to the first one, where it's like, it's just in reverse order. Here
But is that your masterpiece? That the intro, outro?
Yeah,
you're
like
tying in the, I don't know.
Here's a pretty much negligible barbell.
So intentional.
Where it's like you have to be really smart about the first two movements. Like maybe there was an overestimation of how quickly athletes would be able to do it. But I just from having watched, it was like the same, again, very broad instructions that apply to a lot of people, where it's like, don't hold on to the barbell any longer than you have to. Don't hold on to the pull-up bar any longer than you have to. It's just as quick to hop down, shake it out, hop back up. This is 9 rope climbs for time. Do your biceps work after the 6th one?
I just wish everything had been leveled up like a step. First barbell's 275, second barbell's 315.
Well, so it depends on what you want the time domain to be, though.
Sure. Or the and the
like, because you could knock the reps down, up the weight, and then everyone is sprinting to the rope.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just medium gray enough that it was like, what exactly is this? And I mean, we got to see Paul Bunyan, the fucking real life Paul Bunyan, just walk through the workout in 4 seconds.
I don't know that we got even across the open that one true work. I do think the burpee pull up shuttle run, I don't think that was quite as egregious as maybe you do, but I like if that was the cardio test.
It was egregious for a large group of people. It wasn't egregious for everybody. I mean, watching you do it, like that's what that workout I think was intended to be. But when you make a YouTube video and tell athletes like, hey, I mean, I literally said it to everyone in the affiliate Friday Night Lights, like, just so you know, that little shimmy you're doing is significantly slower than walking.
Yeah.
And it's more metabolically demanding to hop your way across the floor.
So was there the test where was there the 75-pound barbell snatch double under burpee test? And it's like, it wasn't.
Now, again, we said this in the open, and I'll say it at least for quarterfinals. If this pattern continues itself and we just don't go there anymore, that's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
But if he lulls you to sleep into thinking you got to get your fucking skills right, and then he fucking hits you with the old 1, 2, 3, it's going to be a problem.
Could very well see that being the case.
I will be now even more interested to see the semifinals programming, because it is centralized again, which I think is better overall, but
and it's I can handle 3 weeks.
I feel bad. I did tell quarterfinals athlete, I was like, after the open, I was like, oh, you guys are so fucked. You're going to get that. You're going to get 30.
They were so fucked. 30, they just had to lay on the ground, not being able to do a movement.
One of thrusters and bar facing burpee. Yeah, by ones. 33 down to 1 by ones of burpees and thrusters, and we didn't get it. So now I'm like, oh,
it was mental torture.
Semi-finalists,
you can't
fucked?
do these gymnastics.
Probably.
You can't do the jump rope. You can't lift this barbell. You can't do the gymnastics, and you can't do the gymnastics. Mental warfare. Just not physical warfare.
I think it's coming. I really do. I think that's sort of the lull to sleep. People really got into barbell because after like the 2012,
but it takes a whole year for that to work, right?
Yes, in theory, but like people are like, all right, you know what? I don't.
People are going to stop doing metcons for semifinals.
I wouldn't say people do metcons, but maybe they don't do some of the more gnarly like sprint intervals like we have kind of queued up for Comp Block 2 for our games qualifiers. But like
semifinals prep and games prep.
Yeah, sorry, in-house terminology, but I do think those workouts are coming. I'm a little disappointed we didn't get one of those, and I guess if someone's good at crossovers, they might feel differently about how that workout went. Because if you're really good at that workout, like that's it's a little bit more cardio, but it's still pretty gnarly.
Still wasn't the how fast can you go for 15 minutes straight? Like,
when the workout's really bad, you don't get to 2/3 of the way through. Go, whew, this is kind of hard.
Yeah,
that's not. You start hard, you end hard. Like that's how it goes. Start hard, end hard.
Bruce Willis, Bruce Willis movie.
You can't say that now.
Poor Bruce. You just can't scream at him.
That fucking.
What's that?
Just can't scream at him. That's what his wife said. Please don't scream at him in public.
Well, he's also got dementia.
That's why. Don't scream at Bruce Willis when you see him in public, Hunter.
Screaming at Bruce Willis is probably
just scream at Drew when you see him first thing in the morning.
Let's tie this all back together.
Without Bruce Willis.
Come full circle.
With Bruce Willis?
Have you convinced yourself otherwise of any of your opening statements? Trip's like, no, fuck that. Handstand push-ups or die.
Those stupid crossovers. No, I completely can see my bias in that movement. And that's one of those things where I am that athlete, similar to the way you described yourself as a teenage boy. Like, I'm going to be like, fuck all that. That's silly. But I really do believe in the CrossFit methodology and what it can do for somebody. So again, without being super duper Larry about it, like I'm going to say it's a good movement. And I like the fact that the community is getting pushed forward and doing more things like a crossover single under that'll eventually become a crossover double under in the open probably next year or the year after. So I think it's a, well, not that
we
fast.
See probably
but like,
crossover single unders in the open in a year or two, but I don't even, yeah.
I just like the fact that we're getting pushed in that direction. And I think it's a good thing that we are constantly getting pushed in a direction that is advancing our fitness and incorporating more and more of just the entire philosophy behind it, instead of just like go really hard and do barbell stuff or go really hard and like on your rowing intervals, but like also, hey, you got to learn skills, because the skills are a huge part of us, and the ability to adapt and adopt new skills fast is something that's going to be tested, especially at the CrossFit Games, which means that you should expect to see it kind of trickle down into the earlier stages of competition.
I don't think I've changed my opinion much. I still think the V-ups were a poor movement selection. I think if you want
poor movement or poor standard, do you not like the movement in general?
A little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. I think like if you want to,
Hunter hated V-ups prior to the open.
You want to open up. I mean, you want to open up the L1. It's like what's the work calculation on the V-up? It's like, is that a functional movement in the sense that like is it a multi-joint movement, large loads, long distances quickly, or is it a
my hands weigh a lot?
Depends on how heavy your legs are.
Yeah, very specific like intentionally targeted movement, and maybe it was just done in the wrong application, like we were kind of talking about for the test.
Yeah.
So I think that overall, what I would like kind of, we doing final thoughts here? Final thought time. So I think that the quarterfinals, I think this season so far, what it has done and will do is start to reshift the focus or the importance of each level of competition. So I think going into like at the end of last year, when I had a conversation with affiliate athletes about like, well, I want to do better at quarterfinals, there was the immediate expectation that like getting to quarterfinals wasn't that difficult. So even like we can say that, you know, to be in the 90th percentile is like mathematically sounds impressive, but when we're talking about the number of registrants and the vast and broad skill level of those participants, being in the 90th percentile isn't crazy. It's not semifinals level, right? It's like a lot of participants. And I think that there were a lot of athletes who felt as though they were shoo-ins to go from the open to quarterfinals, and then knew that there was no chance they were going from quarterfinals to semifinals. Yep. I think that is now going to shift statistically. There's going to be a bit more kind of normal distribution between the levels of competition. So it will actually become like a lot more people's focus. It's just like, wow, I'm an open athlete who is trying to get to quarterfinals, and that would be pretty difficult. And I think that is the potential. And then it will be like, okay, I'm a quarterfinals level athlete, and obviously there's a pretty massive jump from even like top 300 to top 60, let alone top 1500 to top 60 in a given region. But I think that on average, and I'm not totally sure if it's a result of programming, a result of participation, a result of athletes who do CrossFit just getting fitter on the whole. But I think we're going to start to see a shift of the importance of quarterfinals. Like, it's not going to be a gimme for as many kind of hatchet level athletes,
which is what we've asked for. It's like a careful what you wish for scenario.
Where it's like, okay, the open doesn't matter at all. I don't think that's going to be the case for much longer. It might be the case for maybe next year as the kind of the line starts to shift a little bit, but and I think that's good for the sport. I think it's silly when you can be an athlete and say like, this level of competition doesn't matter. This level of competition is the highest level I'm ever going to see, because I'm statistically almost impossible. Will almost never qualify for semifinals. So it's like, well, let's make that jump from the open to quarterfinals, where it's like, here's a challenging but doable scenario for a lot of athletes. And then obviously only the fittest are moving on to semifinals and beyond that. So I think that, save the couple tests that we wish we had. Ultimately, like, the leaderboard is not ridiculous. It's like the athletes that you expect to move on to semifinals are moving on to semifinals. Everybody hopefully has some information to address next year, and just keep in mind that I think the trajectory of CrossFit has not slowed to the point where like it is still going to get harder every single year to advance. And if this year was a bit of a wake up call for you, whether you barely scraped into quarterfinals or got worked over by quarterfinals more than you expected to. It's like, here's your golden opportunity to address it.
I'm going to say the programming was an A- for the 30 to 40 fittest men and women on earth. Sort of sorting them out and putting them through the ringer. I think at a certain level of fitness, you had to push in places where we said other athletes either didn't or couldn't. And overall closer to the B- level, just because we are prepping for semifinals and it's hundreds of athletes who the test should be a little bit better for, which I thought could have been improved with definitely completely reworking number 4 and then finding another place where in one of the 3 or 4 muscle endurance workouts to make it a little gassier. Did we do it?
Final thoughts. Shepherd's pie does not have carrots or peas in it.
Or lamb.
I can get over the lamb.
Fuck.
I don't
There's
mind lamb.
no fucking worse feeling than digging into like some ground beef and it being lamb.
The gamey vibe.
The gamey.
Someone fucked you up?
When we were, I did. I got tricked in Australia. When I was deployed in Australia, we like first of all, military chow hall. So
Yum.
there's
Delicious.
already
kangaroo koala pie.
You have, but you scoop. You're just like, oh fuck yeah, like ground beef and rice. Like I'm gonna go to Smash Town on this, and you get that gamey taste, and you're like, ugh, fuck. And I like lamb cooked correctly, but.
You like it when it's real, when it tastes like pennies?
On the
You really like the tingy?
like it on the bone, seared on the grill, seasoned correctly, not out of a scoop.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for
Ground
tuning in to
lamb.
another episode of the Misfit Podcast. And thank you to our show sponsors. You can head to properfuel.co, use the code word Misfit to save on the best electrolytes, pre-workout and post-workout nutrition in the game. Sharpentheaxeco.com. Use your favorite athlete code. We are heading into semifinals season. That is a lot of money and a lot of travel for our sponsored athletes. You use their code, you save money, and then they make a little money to aid their journey. And misfit.camp for that summer camp, June 23rd through the 25th at Misfit HQ in Portland, Maine. Get signed up, get those plane tickets booked, or I don't know, prepaid gas gift card. MisfitAthletics.com for your individual programming needs. 2 weeks full free. TeamMisfit.com for your affiliate programming needs. See you next week.